Hello and welcome again. So often there are situations in teams where teams end up fighting with each other, and there are lots and lots of internal conflicts. Now, when there are conflicts inside the team, it often becomes extremely difficult for the leader to manage the situation because these conflicts, let's admit it, can often result into many, many bigger problems over a period of time. So it's important that you have to know how do you deal with these conflicts, especially if you're the leader of the team. So what do you do when conflicts occur? So I'm going to try and share with you some tools and tips that one can ponder upon in the context of managing conflicts inside the team. Number one is you identify the root cause of a conflict. Now, any conflict that takes place will have a reason. Now, it's important, therefore, for the leader to be patient enough to dig deeper and try and identify what leads to a conflict, especially if a particular conflict is recurring. It could be the case that there are different people involved in it, but the nature of the problem is more or less similar. So if you can identify what is the root cause of a recurring problem, then it becomes a lot more easier for you to take necessary steps in terms of preventing that problem from happening again. So the first thing you do is to identify the root cause of a problem. Number two is that a lot of these problems could also be people specific, which could be pertaining to their personalities. And because personalities are different, that could often lead into arguments. So it's important that whenever a conflict takes place as a leader, you talk to people in individual capacity, because sometimes people are hesitant to share their thoughts openly. And that may also mean that people are concealing material fact. Therefore, talking to people one-on-one is a good idea to understand their side of the story. Because sometimes, under perceived notions, we might jump to wrong conclusions. In order to avoid that, it becomes extremely imperative that you talk to people one-on-one, understand what exactly is wrong, and then take care of the situation. Number three, and this is extremely important and critical to solve conflicts, is to bring people together under the same roof for ideas. Now, what that means is whenever a conflict takes place, often we as leaders believe that it is our responsibility to solve the conflict. But let's admit it, sometimes we do not have a solution for a conflict. And this is where you need to take the opinion of all people inside the team, including those who are part of the conflict. Why is the conflict happening again and again? What is it that we need to do, we need to change, which will result in a better atmosphere inside the team? Now, that means that you need to bring people together for ideas, build consensus, and then execute those ideas effectively. This would ensure that conflicts are not only eliminated, but you're also making more space for a congenial environment within the team. Number four, be impartial and fair. Now, it's very important as a leader that you do not take sides. Often we end up taking sides even unintentionally at times, but that means that the other side, the other party loses faith in your leadership. And that's an extremely dangerous thing for you to have. So as a leader, it's very important that you take a completely impartial view of the conflict at hand. Sometimes what you see is not what the reality is, which again goes back to the same thing. You need to talk to people in individual capacity to understand their side of the story. And before you reach any conclusion, it's important that you're absolutely 100% sure that you've heard everybody who needs to be heard. Being impartial is an extremely important thing for any leader because that will ensure that people trust you. And when people trust you, they will also listen to your thoughts and ideas in order to resolve the conflicts. And last but not the least, sometimes conflicts happen because people are simply stressed out because they're overburdened with work or there's a lot depending on them, and that often tends to break them down, which means people need some time off. They need break. And that is where taking people for an outdoor event or any kind of team event where they get time to bond with each other, understand each other, is an absolutely important step. Sometimes these events could also see either the parents or the family members of the team members that you have. And that also gives them an opportunity to know each other from close quarters, thereby dissolving a lot of conflicts even before they take any kind of root. So these are 5 simple things that we could do. And when I say simple, I don't mean to say that they're absolutely easy. They will take some effort on your part as a leader, but they're simple to understand and execute if you know how to go about them. So here are the tips again. Number one, whenever a conflict arises, try to understand what is the root cause of the conflict. Number two, you got to speak to team members in individual capacity to understand their side of the story. Number three, bring people together under the same roof so that you're able to brainstorm and build consensus on ideas and solutions. Number four, and very importantly, be absolutely impartial and fair through the entire conflict resolution process. And number five is to organize team events for your team members at regular intervals so that they get the time to relax and break the monotony of work. Now, these are tips that are easier said than done, so you need to practice them. And the more you practice them, the more you become effective at executing them whenever you need to. So try these, and hopefully they will help you cut down the number of conflicts within your team. Thank you so much for listening.